That's right, Edith.
Yes,
Now you better fetch the ice bucket.
Yes,
Did you manage to get the ice out of those little tin trays?
Yes, I had a bit of a struggle though, but it's all right.
And you filled the little trays up again with water?
Yes,
Very good, Edith. You're making giant strides.
Yes,
Madam Arcati, Mrs. Bradman and I will have our coffee in here after dinner, and Mr. Condamine and Dr. Bradman will have theirs in the dining room. Is that clear?
Yes,
And when you're serving dinner, Edith, try to remember to do it calmly and methodically.
Yes,
As you are not in the Navy, it is unnecessary to do everything at the double.
Very good,
Now go and get the ice.
Yes,
Not at a run, Edith.
Yes,
No sign of the advancing hordes?
Not yet.
No ice?
It's coming. I've been trying to discourage Edith from being quite so fleet of foot. You mustn't mind if everything is a little slow motion tonight.
I shall welcome it. These last few days have been extremely agitating. What do you suppose induced Agnes to leave us and go and get married?
The reason was becoming increasingly obvious, dear.
Yes, but these days nobody thinks of anything of the sort. Or she could have popped into the cottage hospital, had it, and popped out again.
Her social life would have been seriously undermined.
We must keep Edith in the house more.
Put it down on the table, Edith. That's right.
Yes,
I left my watch on my dressing table, Edith. Would you get it for me?
Yes, sir.
There now.
You took her by surprise.
A dry martini, I think, don't you?
Yes, darling. I expect Madame Arcati will want something sweeter.
We'll have this one for ourselves, anyhow.
Oh, dear.
What's the matter?
I have a feeling that this evening's going to be awful.
It'll probably be funny, but not awful.
You must promise not to catch my eye. If I giggle, and I'm very likely to, it'll ruin everything.
Oh, you mustn't. You must be dead serious and, if possible, a little intense. We can't hurt the old girl's feelings, however funny she is.
But why the Bradmans, darling? He's as sceptical as we are. He'll probably say the most dreadful things.
I've warned him. There must be more than 3 people present, and we couldn't have had the vicar and his wife, because A, they're dreary, and B, they probably wouldn't have approved at all. It had to be the Bradmans. Thank you, Edith. Steady does it.
Yes, sir.
We might make her walk about with a book on her head like they do in deportment lessons. Here, try this.
Lovely, dry as a bone.
To the Unseen.
I must say, that's a wonderful title.
If this evening's a success, I shall start on the first draft tomorrow.
How extraordinary it is.
What?
Oh, I don't know. Being right at the beginning of something. It gives one an odd feeling.
Do you remember how I got the idea if the light goes out?
Suddenly seeing that haggard raddle woman at the hotel in Veerens. Of course I remember. We sat up half the night talking about it.
She certainly came in very handy. I wonder who she was.
Or if she ever knew. I mean, never recognised that description of herself. Poor thing. Here's to her, anyhow.
We'll have another?
Darling, it's most awfully strong.
Never mind.
You tell Vera to be a help to you? When you were thinking something out, I mean.
Every now and then, when she concentrated, but she didn't concentrate very often.
I do wish I'd known her.
I wonder if you'd have liked her.
I'm sure I should. As you talk of her, she sounds enchanting. Yes, I'm sure I should have liked her, because you know I have never for an instant felt in the least jealous of her. That's a good sign.
Poor Elvira.
Does it still hurt when you think of her?
No, not really. Sometimes I almost wish it did. I feel rather guilty.
Wonder if I died before you'd grown tired of me, you'd forget me so soon.
What a horrible thing to say.
No, I think it's interesting.
Well, to begin with, I haven't forgotten Elvira. I remember her distinctively indeed. I remember how fascinating she was and how maddening. I remember her gay charm when she achieved her own way over something and her extreme acidity when she didn't. I remember her physical attractiveness, which was tremendous. And her spiritual integrity, which was nil.
You can't remember something that was nil.
I remember how morally untidy she was.
Was she more physically attractive than I am?
That was a very tiresome question, dear, and fully deserves the wrong answer.
You really are very sweet.
Oh, thank you.
And a little naive, too.
Why?
Because you imagine that I mind about Elvira being more physically attractive than I am.
I should have thought any woman would mind, if it were true. Or perhaps I'm old-fashioned in my view of female psychology.
Exactly old-fashioned, darling, just a bit didactic.
How do you mean?
It's didactic to attribute to one type the defects of another type. For instance, because you know Elvira would mind terribly if you found another woman more attractive physically than she was, it doesn't necessarily follow that I should. Elvira was a more physical person than I. I'm certain of that. It's all a question of degree.
I love you, my love.
I know you do. But not the wildest stretch of imagination could describe it as the first fine, careless rapture.
Would you like it to be?
Good God, no.
No, wasn't that a shade too vehement?
We're neither of us adolescents, Charles. We've neither of us led exactly prim lives, have we? And we've both been married before. Careless rapture at this stage would be incongruous and embarrassing.
I hope I hadn't been a disappointment in any way, dear.
Don't be so idiotic.
After all, your first husband was a great deal older than you, wasn't he? Well, I should like you to think that you'd missed out all along the line.
There are moments, Charles, when you go too far.
Sorry, darling.
As far as waspish female psychology goes, there's a rather strong vein of it in you.
I've heard that said about Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar is neither here nor there.
He may be, for all we know. We'll ask Madame Arcati.
You're awfully irritating when you're determined to be witty at all costs. Almost supercilious.
Well, that's exactly what Elvira used to say.
I'm not at all surprised. I never imagined, physically triumphant as she was, that she was entirely lacking in perception.
Darling Ruth.
There you go again.
As I think I've mentioned before, I love you, my love.
Poor Elvira.
Didn't that light comradely kiss mollify you in any way?
You are very annoying. You know you are. When I said poor Elvira, it came from the heart. You must have bewildered her so horribly.
Don't I ever bewilder you at all?
Never for an instant. I know every trick.
Well, all I can say is that I think we'd better get a divorce immediately.
Put my glass down, there's a darling.
She certainly had a great talent for living. It's a pity she died so young.
Poor Elvira.
That remark is getting monotonous.
Poor Charles, then.
Well, that's better.
And later on, poor Ruth, I expect.
Oh, you have no faith, Ruth. I really do think you should try to have a little faith.
I shall strain every nerve.
Life without faith is an arid business.
How beautifully you put things, dear.
I aim to please.
If I died, I wonder how long it would be before you married again.
You won't die. You're not the dying sort.
Neither was Elvira.
Oh, yes, she was. Now I look back on it, she had a certain ethereal, not quite of this world quality.
Oh.
Nobody could call you even remotely ethereal.
She was of the earth, earthy.
She is now, anyhow.
You know, that's the kind of observation that shocks people.
It's discouraging to think how many people are shocked by honesty and how few by deceit.
Write that down, you might forget it.
You underrate me.
Anyhow, it was a question of bad taste more than honesty.
I was devoted to Elvira. We were married for 5 years. She died. I miss her very much. That was 7 years ago. I have now, with your help, my love, risen above the whole thing.
Admirable. But if tragedy should darken our lives, I still say, with prophetic foreboding, poor Ruth.
Well, that'll probably be the Bradmans.
Might be Madame Arcati.
Oh, no, she'll come on her bicycle. She always goes everywhere on her bicycle.
Really is very spirited of the old girl.
Shall I go, or shall we let Edith have her fling?
Wait a minute and see what happens.
Perhaps she didn't hear.
She's probably on one knee in a pre-sprinting position, waiting for cook to open the kitchen door.
Steady, Edith!
Yes, sir. Dr. and Mrs. Bradlin.
We're not late, are we? Only got back from the hospital about half an hour ago.
Of course not. Madame Arcadi isn't here yet.
That must have been her we passed coming down the hill. I said I thought it was.
Then she won't be long. I'm so glad you were able to come.
We've been looking forward to it. I feel really quite excited.
I guarantee that Violet will be good. I made her promise.
There wasn't any need. I'm absolutely thrilled. I've only seen Madame Arcati 2 or 3 times in the village. I mean, I've never seen her do anything at all peculiar, if you know what I mean.
A dry martini?
By all means.
She certainly is a strange woman. It was only a chance remark of the vicar's about seeing her up on the knoll on Midsummer's Eve dressed in sort of Indian robes that made me realise she was a psychic at all. I began to make inquiries. Apparently, she's been a professional in London for years.
It is funny, isn't it? I mean, anybody doing it as a profession.
I believe it's very lucrative.
Do you believe in it, Mrs. Condamine? Do you think there's anything really genuine about it all?
I'm afraid not. But I do think it's interesting how easily people allow themselves to be deceived.
But she must believe it herself, mustn't she? Or is the whole business a fake?
I suspect the worst. A real professional charlatan. That's what I'm hoping for, anyhow. The character I'm planning for my book must be a complete imposter. That's one of the most important factors of the whole story.
What exactly are you hoping to get from her?
Jargon, principally. A few tricks of the trade. I haven't been to a good séance in years. I want to refresh my memory.
Then it's not entirely new to you, then.
Oh, no. When I was a little boy, an aunt of mine used to come and live with us. She imagined that she was a medium and would go off into the most elaborate trances after dinner. My mother was quite fascinated by it.
Was she convinced?
Oh, good heavens, no. My mother naturally disliked my aunt and loved making a fool of her.
Though I gather that there were never any tangible results.
Well, sometimes she didn't do so badly. I remember on one occasion, when we were all sat around in the pitch dark, with my mother groping away at chaminade on the piano, my aunt suddenly gave a shrill scream and said that there was a small black dog sitting by my chair. Then someone turned on the lights, and sure enough, there it was.
How extraordinary.
Oh, it was obviously a stray that had come in from the streets, but I must admit I took my hat off to my aunt for producing it, or rather utilising it. Even Mother was a bit shaken.
And what happened to it?
Oh, it lived with us for years.
I sincerely hope Madame Arcati won't produce any livestock. We have so very little room in this house.
Do you think she tells fortunes? I love having my fortune told.
I expect so.
I was told once on the pier at Southsea that I was surrounded by lilies in the Golden Seven. It worried me for days.
We really must all be very serious and pretend that we believe implicitly, otherwise she won't play.
Also, she might really mind. It would be cruel to upset her.
I shall be as good as gold.
Have you ever attended her, Doctor? Professionally, I mean.
Yes, she had influenza in January. She's only been here just over a year, you know. I must say, she was singularly unpsychic then. I always understood that she was an authoress.
Oh, yes. We originally met as colleagues at one of Mrs. Wilmot's Sunday evenings in Sandgate.
What sort of books does she write?
Two kinds. Rather whimsical children's stories about enchanted woods and highly conversational fauna. And enthusiastic biographies about minor royalties. Very reverent, sentimental, and extremely funny.
Here she is.
She knows, doesn't she, about tonight? You're not going to spring it on her?
Of course, it was all arranged last week. I told her that I was profoundly interested in anything to do with the occult, and she blossomed like a rose.
I really feel quite nervous.
Oh,
so I'm going to make a speech.
You go and meet her, darling.
I've leant my bike up against that little bush. It will be perfectly all right if no one touches it. Madame Arcati.
How nice of you to have come all this way.
My dear Madame Arcati.
I'm afraid I'm rather late, but I had this sudden presentiment that I was going to have a puncture. And then, of course, I didn't have a puncture at all.
Perhaps you will on the way home?
Ah, Dr. Bradman, the man with the gentle hand.
I'm delighted to see you looking so well. This is my wife.
We are old friends. We meet coming out of shops.
Would you like a cocktail?
If it's a dry martini, yes. If a concoction, no. Experience has taught me to be very wary of concoctions.
It is a dry martini.
How delicious.
It was wonderful cycling through the woods this evening. I was deafened with bird song.
It's been lovely all day.
But the evening's the time, mark my words.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers. Don't you find it tiring bicycling everywhere?
On the contrary, it rather stimulates me. I was getting far too sedentary in London. That horrid little flat with the dim lights. They had to be dim, you know. The clients expect it.
I must say, I find bicycling very exhausting.
Steady rhythm, that's what counts. Once you get the knack of it, you need never look back. On you get and away you go.
But the hills, Madame Arcati, pushing up those awful hills.
Just knack again. Down with your head and up with your heart, and you're over the top like a flash and skimming down the other side like a dragonfly. Oh. This is the best dry martini I've had in years.
Will you have another?
Oh, certainly. You're a very clever man. Anybody can write books, but it takes an artist to make a dry martini that is dry enough.
Are you writing anything nowadays, Madame Arcati?
Every morning, regular as clockwork, 7 till 1.
Is it a novel or a memoir?
It's a children's book. I have to finish it by the end of October to catch the Christmas sales. It's mostly about very small animals. The hero is a moss beetle. I had to give up my memoir of Princess Pagliatardi because she died in April. I talked to her about it the other day and she implored me to go on with it.
You talked to her about it the other day?
Yes, through my control, of course. She sounded very irritable.
'Tis funny to think of people in this spirit world as being irritable. I mean, one can hardly imagine it, can one?
We have no reliable guarantee that the afterlife is any less exasperating than this one, have we?
Oh, Mr. Condamine, how can you?
I expect it's dreadfully ignorant of me not to know, but who was Princess Pagliatardi?
She was originally a Jewess from Odessa of quite remarkable beauty. It was an accepted fact that people used to stand on the seats of railway stations to watch her whiz by.
She was a keen traveller?
In her younger days, yes. She then met a Mr. Clark in the consular service and settled down for a while.
How did she become Princess Pagliatardi?
That was years later. Mr. Clark passed over and left her penniless with 2 strapping girls.
How unpleasant.
And so there was nothing for it but to obey the beckoning finger of adventure. So off she went, bag and baggage, to Vladivostok.
What an extraordinary place to go.
She had cousins there. Some years later, she met old Paliatani, who was returning from a secret mission in Japan. He was immediately staggered by her beauty, and very shortly afterwards he married her. From then on, her life became really interesting.
I should have hardly described it as dull before.
What happened to the girls?
She never saw them nor spoke to them for 23 years.
How extraordinary.
Not really. She was always very erratic emotionally.
Dinner is served, Mum.
Thank you, Edith. Shall we?
No red meat, I hope.
Well, there's meat, but I don't think it will be very red. Would you rather have an egg or something?
No, thank you. It's just that I make it a rule never to eat red meat before I work. It sometimes has the odd effect.
What sort of effect?
Oh, nothing of the least importance. If it isn't red, it won't matter much. Anyhow, we'll risk it.
Come along then, Mrs. Bradman, Madame Alcati. You're on Charles's right.
Mother's side, she went right back to the bourgeois, which I think accounted for a lot one way or another. Even as a child, she was given to the most violent, destructive tempers. Very inbred, you know.
Yes, she must have been.
My control was quite scared the other day when we were talking. I could hear it in her voice. After all, she is only a child.
Do you always have a child as a control?
Yes, they're generally best. Some mediums prefer Indians, of course, but I've always found them to be unreliable.
In what way unreliable?
Well, for one thing, they're dreadfully lazy, and when faced with any sort of difficulty, they're rather apt to go off in their own tribal language, which is naturally unintelligible. That generally spoils everything and wastes a great deal of time. No, children are undoubtedly more satisfactory, particularly when they get to know you and understand your ways. Daphne has worked with me for years.
And she still goes on being a child. I mean, she doesn't show any signs of growing older.
Time values on the other side are utterly different from ours.
Do you feel funny when you go off into a trance?
In what way funny?
Mrs. Bradman doesn't mean funny in its comic implication. I think she meant odd or strange.
The word was an unfortunate choice.
I'm sure. I'm very sorry.
Doesn't matter in the least. Please don't apologise.
When did you first discover that you had these extraordinary powers?
When I was quite tiny. My mother was a medium before me, you know, and so I had every opportunity of starting on the ground floor, as you might say. I had my first trance when I was 4, and my first ectoplasmic manifestation when I was 5.5. Oh, what an exciting day that was. I shall never forget it. Of course, the manifestation itself was very small and of quite short duration, but for a child of my tender years, it was most gratifying.
Your mother must have been so pleased.
She was.
Can you foretell the future?
Certainly not. I disapprove of fortune tellers most strongly.
Oh, really? Why?
Too much guesswork and fake mixed up with it. Even when the gift is genuine, and very occasionally is, you can't count on it.
Why not?
Time again. Time is reef upon which all our mystic ships are wrecked.
You mean because it has never yet been proved that the past and the present and the future are not one and the same thing?
I came to the conclusion long ago that nothing has ever been proved by anything.
How very wise. I want you to leave the dining room just as it is for tonight, Edith. You can
Yes.
clear the table in the morning.
Yes, sir.
And if anyone should telephone, just say we are out and take a message.
Yes, sir.
Unless it's an urgent call for George.
Unless it's an urgent call for Dr. Bradman.
Yes, sir.
There's not likely to be one, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Once I am off, it won't matter much, but an interruption during the preliminary stages might be disastrous.
I do wish the men would hurry up. I'm terribly excited.
Please don't be, it makes everything much more difficult.
Well, Madame Alcati, the time is drawing near.
Who knows, it may be receding.
Oh, how very true.
I hope you feel in the mood, Madame Akati.
It isn't a question of mood, it is a question of concentration.
You must forgive us being impatient. We can perfectly easily wait, though, if you're not quite ready to start.
Nonsense, my dear, I'm always ready. Hi-ho, to work we go.
Is there anything you'd like us to do?
Do.
Yes. Hold hands or anything?
All that will come later. First, a few deep breaths of fresh air. You may talk if you wish. You will not disturb me in the least.
Oh dear.
An excellent dinner, darling. I must congratulate you.
The mousse wasn't quite right.
It looked a bit hysterical, but it tasted delicious.
That cuckoo is very angry.
I beg your pardon?
I said that cuckoo is very angry. Listen.
How can you tell?
Tombra. No moon, that's as well, I think. There's mist rising from the marshes. There's no need for me to light my bicycle lamp, is there? I mean, nobody's likely to fall over it.
No, we're not expecting anybody else.
Good night, you foolish bird! You have a table.
Oh, yes, we thought that one would do.
I think the one that has the drinks on it might be better.
Change over.
You told Edith that we didn't want to be disturbed?
Yes, darling.
This is the moment I always hate.
Are you nervous?
Yes, when I was a girl, I always used to be sick.
Children are always much more prone to be sick than grown-ups, though, aren't they? I know I could never travel in a train without any degree of safety until I was 14.
Little Tommy Tucker sings for his supper. What shall he have but brown bread and butter? I always despise that because it doesn't rhyme at all. Anyhow, Daphne loves it.
Who's Daphne?
Daphne of Madame Arcadi's control. She's a little girl.
Oh, I see. Yes, of course.
How old is she?
Rising 7 when she died.
And when was that?
February the 6th, 1884.
Poor little thing.
She must be a bit long in the tooth by now, I should think.
You should think, Dr. Bradman, but I fear you don't. At least not profoundly enough.
Do be quiet, George. You'll put Madame McCarthy off.
Nonsense, my dear. I'm quite used to skeptics. They generally turn out to be the most vulnerable and receptive in the long run.
You better take that warning to heart, Dr. Bradman.
Please forgive me, Madame McCarthy. I can assure you I am most deeply interested.
It is of no consequence. Will you all sit round the table, please, and place your hands downwards upon it?
Come, Mrs. Bradman.
What about the lights?
All that will come later, Mr. Collins. Sit down. Fingers should be touching, that's right. I presume this is the gramophone?
Yes. Would you like me to start it? It's an electric one.
Stay where you are, I can manage. Now, there are one or two things I should like to explain to you, so you will all listen attentively.
Of course.
Presently, when the music begins, I'm going to turn out the lights. I may either walk around the room a little or lie down flat. In due course, I'm going to draw up this dear little stool and join you at the table. I must ask you not to do or move or address anything in the least distracting. Is that quite clear?
Perfectly.
Of course, I cannot guarantee that anything will happen. Daphne may be unavailable. She had a head cold very recently and has been rather under the weather, poor child. On the other hand, a great many things might happen. One of you might have an emanation, or we may contact a poltergeist, which would be extremely destructive and noisy.
In what way destructive?
Oh, they throw things, you know.
No, I didn't know.
But we must cross that bridge when we come to it.
Certainly, by all means.
Now, are you ready to empty your minds?
Do you mean we're to try to think of nothing?
Absolutely nothing, Dr. Bradman. That really is the best way. Try to focus on a space or a nondescript colour.
I'll do my damnedest.
Good work. I'll start the music. Lights!
Oh dear.
Quiet, please. Now then, is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Is there anyone there? Oh, shh. Is that you, Daphne? I'm terribly sorry to bother you. Is your cold better, dear? I'm so sorry. Are you doing anything for it? I'm afraid she is rather fretful. Now then, Daphne, is there anybody there who wishes to speak to anyone here? No, Daphne, don't do that! No, Daphne, dear, you're hurting me! Daphne, dear, please! Oh, Daphne! Now, Daphne, you say there is someone there who wishes to speak to someone here. Is it me? Is it Dr. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Condamine? Stop it! Behave yourself! Is it Mr. Condamine? There's someone who wishes to speak to you, Mr. Condamine.
Tell them to leave a message.
I must ask you not to be flippant, Mr. Condamine.
Charles, how can you be so idiotic? You'll spoil everything.
I'm sorry, it slipped out.
Do you know anyone who has passed over recently?
Not recently, no. Oh, except my cousin in the civil service, but he wouldn't be likely to want to communicate with me. We haven't spoken for years.
Are you Mr. Condamine's cousin in the civil service? I'm afraid we've drawn a blank. Can you think of anyone else? Rack your brains.
It might be old Mrs. Plummet, you know. She died on Whit Monday.
I can't imagine why old Mrs. Plummet should wish to talk to me. We had very little in common.
It's worth trying, anyhow.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet?
She was very deaf. Perhaps you'd better shout.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet? There's nobody there at all.
How disappointing, just as we were getting on so nicely.
Violet, be quiet.
Well, I'm afraid there's nothing for it but for me to go into a trance. I had hoped to avoid it because it is so exhausting. Anyhow, what must be must be. Excuse me while I restart the gramophone.
Always, don't play always.
Why ever not, Charles? Don't be upset.
I'm afraid I must. It would be most imprudent to change horses in midstream, if you know what I mean.
Have it your own way.
That would be Daphne. She ought to have her amyloids out.
George, please.
Good God!
Keep still, Charles.
It's trying to get away. I can't hold it.
Press down hard.
Ought we to pick it up or leave it where it is?
How the hell do I know?
There's no need to snap at me.
Where it is.
Who said that?
You said what?
Somebody said leave it where it is.
Nonsense, dear.
I heard it distinctly.
Nobody else did. Did they?
I never heard a sound.
Ruth, it's you. You're playing tricks on me.
Not doing anything of the sort. I haven't uttered.
Good evening, Charles.
Ventriloquism. That's what it is, ventriloquism.
What on earth is the matter with you?
You must have heard that. One of you must have heard that.
Heard what?
What, you mean to sit there solemnly and tell me that none of you heard anything at all?
I certainly didn't.
Neither did I. I wish I had. Should love to hear something.
It's you who are playing the tricks, Charles. You're acting to try to frighten us.
I'm not. I swear I'm not.
It's difficult to think of what to say after 7 years, but I suppose good evening is as good as anything else.
Who are you?
Lyra, of course, don't be so silly.
Oh, I can't bear this for another minute. Get up, everybody. The entertainment's over.
Charles, how tiresome of you.
Never again. That's all I can say. Never again for as long as I live.
What on earth is the matter with you?
Nothing's the matter with me. I'm just sick of the whole business, that's all.
Did you hear anything that we didn't hear, really?
Of course not. I was only pretending.
I know you were.
Oh dear. Look at Madame Carty.
What are we to do with her?
Bring her round. Bring her round as soon as possible.
I think we better leave her alone.
But you might stay like that for hours.
Oh, she's out all right.
Bring her round. It's dangerous to leave her like that.
Really, Charles, you were behaving most peculiarly.
Wake up, Madame Arcati. Oh, it's time to go home, Madame Arcati.
Hey, go easy, old man.
Get some brandy. Give her some brandy. Help her into the chair. Help me, Bradman. Wake up, Madame Arcati. Little Tommy Tucker, Madame Arcati.
Here's the brandy.
Wake up!
She's coming round.
Be careful, Charles, she's putting it all down her dress.
Well, that's that.
Are you all right?
Certainly never felt better in all my life.
Would you like some more brandy? Or...
So that's a funny taste in my mouth. Well, really? Fancy allowing them giving me brandy, Dr. Bradman. You ought to have known better. Brandy on top of a trance might have been catastrophic. Take it away, please. I shan't sleep a wink tonight, as is.
I know I shan't.
Why ever not?
And the whole experience has unhinged me.
Well, what happened? Was it satisfactory?
Nothing much happened, Madame Arcati, after you went off.
Oh, something happened, all right. No poltergeist. That's as well, I think. Any apparitions?
Not a thing.
No ectoplasm?
I'm not quite sure what it is, but I don't think so.
Strange, I feel as though something tremendous has taken place.
Charles pretended he heard a voice in order to frighten us.
It was only a joke.
A very poor one, if I may say so. Nevertheless, I am prepared to swear there is something other than myself that is psychic in this room.
I don't see how they can be, really, Madame Arcati.
I do hope I haven't gone and released something. Anyhow, we are bound to find out within a day or two. If any manifestation should occur, or you hear any unexpected noises, you might as well let me know at once.
Of course we will. We'll telephone immediately.
I think I must really be on my way now.
Wouldn't you like anything before you go?
No, thank you. I have some Ovaltine all in a saucepan at home. It only needs hotting up.
Wouldn't you like to leave your bicycle here and let us drive you?
I honestly do think you should, Madame Arcati. After that trance and everything, you can't quite be feeling yourself.
Nonsense, my dear. I'm as fit as a fiddle. Always feel capital after a trance. It rejuvenates me. Good night, Mrs. Contamine.
It was awfully sweet of you to take so much trouble.
I'm so sorry so little occurred. It must be that cold of Daphne's, I expect. You know what children are like when they have anything wrong with them. We must try again some other evening.
That would be lovely.
Good night, Mrs. Bradman.
It was thrilling. It really was. Felt the table absolutely shaking under my hands.
Good night, Doctor.
Congratulations, Madame Arcati.
I'm fully aware of the irony in your voice, Doctor. As a matter of fact, you'd be an admirable subject for a telepathic hypnosis. A great chum of mine is an expert. I should like her to look you over.
I'm sure I should be charmed.
Good night, everyone. Next time we must really put our backs into it.
Oh dear! Oh dear!
Be careful, Mrs. Contamine. She might hear you.
Oh, I can't help it. I really can't. I've been holding this in for ages.
She certainly put you in your place, George, and served you right.
She's raving mad, of course. Mad as a hatter.
But do you think she really believes?
Of course not. The whole thing's a put-up job. I must say, though, she shoots a more original line than they generally do.
She's probably half convinced herself by now.
Possibly. The trance was genuine enough, but that, of course, is easily accounted for.
Hysteria?
Yes, a form of hysteria, I should imagine.
I do hope Mr. Contamine got all the atmosphere he wanted for his book.
He might have got a great deal more if he hadn't spoiled everything by showing off. I'm really very cross with him. Suddenly there's a draft. There must be a window open.
No, they're shut.
Perhaps it was one of those what you may call that Madame Arcati was talking about.
Elementals.
Oh no, it couldn't be. She distinctly said that it was the wrong time of year for elementals.
Well, the old girl's gone pedalling off down the drive at one hell of a speed. We had a bit of trouble lighting her lamp.
Poor thing.
I have a theory about her, you know. I believe she's completely sincere.
Charles, how could she be?
Wouldn't it be possible, Doctor? Some sort of self-hypnotism?
It might be. As I was explaining to your wife just now, there are certain types of hysterical...
It's getting terribly late. You must go home. You've got to be up so early in the morning.
I shall do a little reading up on the whole business, just for the fun of it.
Oh, you must have a drink before you go.
No, really, we must be off, thank you. Well, it's quite right. I have a patient being operated on in Canterbury.
Goodbye, Mrs. Contamine.
Goodbye.
Good night, Mrs. Contamine. Thank you so much.
Are you sure about that drink?
Quite sure, thanks.
We'll let you know if we find any poltergeists whirling about.
I should never forgive you if you didn't.
Come along, darling.
Well, darling,
Well,
would you say this evening has been profitable?
yes, I suppose so.
I must say it was extremely funny at moments.
Yes, it certainly was.
What's the matter?
The matter?
Yes, you seem odd somehow. Do you feel quite well?
Perfectly. I think I'll have a drink. Will you have one?
No, thank you, dear.
It's rather chilly in this room.
Come over by the fire.
I don't think I'll make any notes tonight. I'll start fresh in the morning. My God!
Charles! That was awfully clumsy, Charles, dear.
Then Elvira, it's true, it was you!
Of course it was.
Charles? Darling Charles, what are you talking about?
Are you a ghost?
I suppose I must be. It's all very confusing.
Charles, what do you keep looking over there for? Look at me, what's happened?
Don't you see her?
See what?
Elvira.
Elvira.
Yes, Elvira. Dear, this is Ruth. Ruth, this is Elvira.
Come and sit down, darling.
Do you mean to say that you can't see her?
Listen, Charles, you just sit down quietly by the fire and I'll mix you another drink. Don't worry about the mess on the carpet, Edith will clear it up in the morning.
But you must be able to see her. She's there. Look, right in front of you there.
Are you mad? What's happened to you?
You can't see her.
Look, Charles, if this is a joke, it's gone far enough. Sit down, for God's sake, and don't be so idiotic.
What am I to do? What the hell am I to do?
I suppose you might be a little more pleased to see me. After all, you conjured me up.
I didn't do any such thing.
Of course you did. That child with the cold came and told me you needed to see me urgently.
Oh, it's all a mistake. It's all a horrible mistake.
Talking like that, Charles, as I told you before, the joke's gone far enough.
I've just gone mad. That's what it is. I've just gone raving mad.
Here, drink this.
This is appalling.
Relax.
How can I relax? I shan't be able to relax as long as I live.
Drink some brandy.
There, are you satisfied?
Now sit down.
Why are you so anxious for me to sit down? I don't see what good it will do.
Because I want you to relax. You can't relax standing up.
African natives can. They can stand on one leg for hours.
I don't happen to be an African native.
You don't happen to be a what?
An African native!
What's that got to do with it?
Nothing at all. We'll say no more about it. See, I've sat down now.
Would you like some more brandy?
Yes, please.
Very unwise. You always had a weak head.
I could drink you under the table.
There's no need to be aggressive, Charles. I'm doing my best to help you.
Sorry, darling.
Here, drink this and then we'll go up to bed.
Get rid of her, Charles, then we can talk in peace.
That was a thoroughly immoral suggestion. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
What is there immoral in that?
Oh, I wasn't talking to you.
Who were you talking to then?
Elvira, of course!
To hell with Elvira.
Oh, there now, she's getting cross.
I don't blame her.
What did you blame her?
Oh, God.
Now look here, Charles. I gather you've got some sort of plan behind all this. I'm not quite a fool. I suspected you when we were doing that idiotic séance.
Don't be silly. What plan could I have?
Oh, I don't know. Probably something to do with one of the characters in your book. How they or one of them would react to a certain situation. I refuse to be used as a guinea pig unless I warned beforehand what it's all about.
Elvira is here, Ruth. She is standing a few yards away from you.
Yes, dear, I can see her distinctly. Under the piano with a Z.
But Ruth!
I will not stay here arguing any longer. Hooray!
Shut up!
How dare you speak to me like that?
Listen, please.
I will not listen to any more of this nonsense. I'm going up to my room now. I'll leave you to turn out the lights. I shan't be asleep. I'm too upset. So you can come in and say goodnight to me if you feel like it.
It's big of her, I must say.
Be quiet, you're behaving like a gutter snake.
That is all I have to say. Good night, Charles.
Ruth!
That was one of the most enjoyable half an hours I have ever spent.
Oh, Elvira, how could you?
The poor Ruth.
What am I to do?
What you suggested. Relax.
Where have you come from?
Do you know, it's quite peculiar. I've sort of forgotten.
Were you to be here indefinitely?
I don't know that either.
Oh, my God.
Why? Would you hate it so much if I was?
We must admit it would be rather embarrassing.
I don't see how, really. It's all a question of adjusting yourself. Anyhow, I think it's horrid of you to be so unwelcoming and disagreeable.
Now, look here, Elvira.
I do. I think you're mean.
You're trying to see my point, dear. I've been married to Ruth for 5 years. You've been dead for 7.
Not dead, Charles. Passed over. It's considered vulgar to say dead where I come from.
Passed over, then.
And at any rate, now that I'm here, you can make a pretense of being amiable about it.
Of course, my dear, I'm delighted. In one way.
I don't believe you love me anymore.
I shall always love the memory of you.
You mustn't think me unreasonable, but I'm a little hurt, really. You called me back, and at a great inconvenience I came, but you've been thoroughly churlish ever since I arrived.
Believe me, Elvira, I most emphatically did not...
Well, somebody did. And that child told me that it was you. I remember I was playing backgammon with a sweet old Oriental gentleman. I think his name was Genghis Khan. I just rolled double sixes. Then the child paged me, and the next thing I knew, I was in this room. Perhaps it was your subconscious.
You must find out whether you're going to stay here or not. We can make adjustments accordingly.
I don't see how I can.
Try to think. Isn't there somebody you know over there? Someone you could get in contact with on the other side, or whatever it's called, who could advise you?
I can't think. It seems so far away, as though I dreamed it.
You must know somebody else other than Genghis Khan.
Oh, Charles.
What's the matter?
I want to cry, but I don't think I'm able to.
What do you want to cry for?
Seeing you again. And you being so irascible like you always used to be.
I don't mean to be irascible, Elvira, but...
Darling, I don't mind, really. I never did.
Is it cold, being a ghost?
No, I don't think so.
What happens if I try to touch you?
I doubt if you can. Do you want to?
Oh, Elvira.
What's the matter, darling?
I really do feel strange seeing you again.
Don't worry about that. Just relax.
I suppose if I am going out of my mind, though, I shall wake up eventually.
That's better.
What's better?
Your voice was kinder.
Was I ever unkind to you when you were alive?
Often.
Oh, how can you? I'm sure that's an exaggeration.
Nonsense. You're an absolute pig that time we went to Cornwall and stayed in that awful hotel. You hit me with a billiard cue.
Only very, very gently.
I loved you very much.
I loved you too. No, I can't touch you. Isn't that horrible?
I suppose it's just as well if I'm going to stay here for any length of time.
I suppose I shall wake up eventually, but I feel strangely peaceful now.
That's right. Put your head back.
Like that?
Can you feel anything?
Only a very gentle breeze through my hair.
Well, it's better than nothing.
I suppose if I really am going out of my mind, they'll throw me in an asylum.
Oh, don't worry about that now. Just relax.
Poor Ruth.
To hell with Ruth.
Good morning, darling.
Good morning, Charles.
It certainly is.
What certainly is what?
A good morning. A tremendously good morning. Not a cloud in the sky and everything looks newly washed.
Edith's keeping your breakfast hot. You better ring.
Anything interesting in the Times?
Don't be silly, Charles.
I intend to work all day.
Good.
It's extraordinary about daylight, isn't it?
How do you mean?
The way it reduces everything to normal.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
I'm sure I'm very glad to hear it.
You're very glacial this morning.
Are you surprised?
Frankly, yes, I expected more of you.
Well, really.
I've always looked upon you as a woman of perception and understanding.
Perhaps this is one of my off days.
Good morning, Edith.
Morning,
You
sir.
feeling fit?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oh, how's Cook?
I don't know, sir. I didn't ask her.
Oh, you must. You must begin every day by asking everyone how they are. It oils the wheels.
Yes, sir.
Greet her for me, will you?
Yes, sir.
That will be all for the moment, Edith.
Yes, sir.
I wish you wouldn't be so facetious with the servants, Charles. It confuses them and undermines their morale.
I consider that point of view retrogressive, if not downright feudal.
I don't care what you consider it. I have to run the house and you don't.
Are you implying that I couldn't?
You're at liberty to try.
Well, I take back what I said about it being a good morning. It's a horrid morning.
You better eat your breakfast while it's hot.
It isn't.
Now look here, Charles. In your younger days, this display of roguish flippancy might have been alluring. In a middle-aged novelist, it's nauseating.
Would you like me to writhe at your feet in a frenzy of self-abasement?
That would be equally nauseating, but certainly more appropriate.
I really don't see what I've done that's so awful.
You behaved abominably last night. You wounded me and insulted me.
Why was the victim of an aberration?
Nonsense. You were drunk.
Drunk.
You had 4 strong dry martinis before dinner, a great deal too much burgundy at dinner. Heaven knows how much Bolton Kimmel with Dr. Bradman. Well, I was doing my best to entertain that mad woman, and 2 double brandies later, I gave them to you myself. Of course you were drunk.
So, that's your story, is it?
You refused to come to bed, and finally when I came down at 3 in the morning to see what had happened to you, I found you in an alcoholic coma on the sofa with the fire out and your hair all over your face.
I wasn't in the least drunk, Ruth. Something happened to me last night. Something very peculiar happened to me.
Nonsense.
Oh, it isn't nonsense. I know it looks like nonsense now in the clear, remorseless light of day, but last night it was anything but nonsense. I honestly had some sort of hallucination.
I really would rather not discuss it any further.
But you must discuss it. It's very disturbing.
There, I agree with you. It shows you up in a most unpleasant light.
I swear to you, last night, during the séance, I heard Elvira's voice.
But you couldn't have.
I know I couldn't have, but I did. And later on, I was equally convinced that I saw Elvira in this room. I saw her distinctly, and I talked to her. After you got up to bed, we had quite a cosy little chat.
And you seriously expect me to believe that you weren't drunk?
I know I wasn't drunk. If I'd have been all that drunk, I should have a dreadful hangover now, shouldn't I?
I'm not at all sure that you haven't.
Oh, I haven't the trace of a headache. My tongue's not coated. Look at it.
I've not the least desire to look at your tongue. Kindly put it in again.
I know what it is. You're frightened.
Frightened? Rubbish. What is there to be frightened of?
Elvira, you wouldn't have minded all that much even if I had been drunk. It's all because it's mixed up with Elvira.
I seem to remember last night before dinner telling you that your views of female psychology were rather didactic. I was right. I should have added they were puerile.
That was when it all began.
When what all began?
We were talking too much about Elvira. It's dangerous to have someone so strongly in your mind when you start dabbling with the occult.
She certainly wasn't strongly in my mind.
She was in mine.
Oh, she was she?
You tried to make me say that she was more physically attractive than you were so you could hold it over me.
I did not. I don't give a hoot how physically attractive she was.
Oh, yes, you do. Your whole being is devoured with jealousy.
This is too much.
Women, my God, what I think of women.
Your view of women is academic, to say the least of it. Just because you have always been dominated by them, it doesn't necessarily follow that you know anything about them.
I've never been dominated by anyone.
You were hag-ridden by your mother until you were 23. Then you got into the clutches of that awful Mrs. whatever her name was.
Mrs. Winthrop Quellin.
I'm not interested. Then there was Elvira. She ruled you with a rod of iron.
Elvira never ruled anyone. She was much too elusive. That was one of her greatest charms.
And there was Maud Charteris.
My affair with Maud Charteris lasted exactly 7.5 weeks, and she cried all the time.
The tyranny of tears. Then there was...
If you wish to make an inventory of my sex life, dear, then I think it's only fair to say that you've missed out several episodes. I shall consult my diary and give you a complete list after lunch.
It's no use trying to impress me with your routine amorous exploits. Charles, alcohol will ruin your whole life if you allow it to get a hold on you, you know.
Once and for all, Ruth, I would like you to understand that what happened last night was nothing whatever to do with alcohol. You very adroitly rationalised the whole situation to your own satisfaction, but your deductions are based on complete fallacy. I am willing to grant you that it was an aberration, some sort of odd psychic quirk brought on by suggestion or hypnosis. I was stone cold sober from first to last night, and extremely upset into the bargain.
You were upset indeed. What about me?
You behaved with a stolid, obtuse lack of comprehension that frankly shocked me.
I consider that I was remarkably patient. I shall know better next time.
Instead of putting out a kind, comradely hand to guide me, you shouted staccato orders at me, like a sergeant major.
You seem to forget that you gratuitously insulted me.
I was talking to Elvira!
If you were, I can only say that it conjures up a fragrant picture of your first marriage.
My first marriage was perfectly charming, and I think it's in the worst possible taste for you to sneer at it.
I am not nearly so interested in your first marriage as you think I am. It is your second marriage that is absorbing me at the moment.
Only because you persist in taking up this ridiculous attitude.
My attitude is that of any normal woman whose husband gets drunk and hurls abuse at her.
I was not drunk!
Right, I'll hear you in the kitchen.
I don't care if they hear me in Folkestone Town Hall, I was not drunk!
Control yourself, Charles.
How can I control myself in the face of your idiotic damn stubbornness that's giving me claustrophobia?
You better ring up Dr. Bradman. Night, clear, please. Yes, Edith. Cook wants to know about lunch, Mum? Will you be in to lunch, Charles?
Don't worry about me, I shall be perfectly happy with a bottle of gin in my bedroom.
Don't be silly, dear. Tell Cook we shall both be in. Yes, sir. I'm going into Hyde this morning. Is there anything you want?
Yes, a great deal, but I doubt you could get any of it in a Hyde.
Tell Cook to put Alka-Seltzer down on my list, will you, Edith?
Yes, sir.
It's clouding over.
You have a genius for understatement.
Don't worry about the table, Edith. I'll put it away.
Yes, sir.
Please, Ruth, be reasonable.
I'm perfectly reasonable.
I genuinely believe that I wasn't pretending. When I heard Elvira's voice, I was appalled.
You put up with it for 5 years.
When I saw her, I had the shock of my life. That's why I dropped the glass.
But you couldn't have seen her.
I know I couldn't have, but I did.
I'm willing to concede, then, that you imagined you did.
That's what I've been trying to tell you for hours.
Well, then there's obviously something wrong with you.
Exactly. There's something wrong with me, something fundamentally wrong with me. Which is why when I implored your sympathy, all I got was a sterile temperance lecture.
You have been drinking, Charles. There's no denying that.
Well, no more than usual.
Well, how do you account for it, then?
I can't account for it, that's what's so awful.
Did you feel quite well yesterday?
Of course
During
I
the day, I mean.
Of course I did.
What did you have for lunch?
Well, you ought to know, you had it with me.
Let me see now. There was lemon sole and that cheese thing.
Why should having a cheese thing for lunch make me see my deceased wife after dinner?
You never know. It was rather rich.
Why didn't you see your dead husband then? You had just as much of it as I did.
This is not getting us anywhere at all.
Of course it isn't. And it won't as long as you insist on ascribing supernatural phenomena to colonic irritation.
Supernatural grandmother.
I admit she would have been a lot less agitating.
Perhaps you ought to see a nerve specialist.
I'm not in the least neurotic, and never have been.
Psychoanalyst, then.
I refused to endure months of expensive humiliation, only to be told at the end of it that at the age of 4 I was in love with my rocking horse.
What do you suggest, then?
I don't suggest anything. I'm profoundly uneasy.
Perhaps there's something pressing on your brain.
If I had something pressing on my brain, I should have a violent headache, shouldn't I?
Not necessarily. An uncle of mine had a lump the size of a cricket ball pressing on his brain for years, and he never felt a thing.
I know I should know if I had anything like that.
He didn't.
What happened to him?
He had it taken out, and he's been bright as a button ever since.
Did you see any delusions? Or did you think he saw things that weren't there?
No, I don't think so.
Well, then why the hell are we talking about it for, then? It's a sheer waste of valuable time.
I only brought him up as an example.
I think I'm going mad.
How do you feel now?
Physically, do you mean?
Altogether.
Well, apart from being worried, I feel quite normal.
Good. You're not hearing or seeing anything in the least unusual?
Not at all.
You've absolutely ruined that border out by the sun, darling. It looks like a mixed salad.
Oh my god!
What's the matter now?
She's here again.
What do you mean? Who's here again?
Elvira.
Pull yourself together and don't be absurd.
It's all those nasturtiums. They're so vulgar.
I like nasturtiums.
You like what?
Well, they're all right in moderation, but in a mass like that, they just look beastly.
Help me, Ruth. You've got to help me.
What do you mean about nasturtium?
Oh, never mind about that now. I tell you, she's here again.
You two have been having a nice scene, haven't you? I could hear you right down the garden.
Please mind your own business.
If you're behaving like a lunatic isn't my business, nothing is.
I suppose it was about me, wasn't it? I know you ought to feel sorry, but I'm not. I'm delighted.
How can you be so inconsiderate?
Inconsiderate! Oh, I like that, I must say.
Please, Ruth, please.
I've done everything I can to help. I've controlled myself admirably. And I should like to say here and now that I don't believe a word about your damned hallucination. You're up to something, Charles. There's been a certain furtiveness in your manner for weeks. Why don't you just be honest and tell me what it is?
You're wrong. You're dead wrong. I haven't been in the least furtive.
You're trying to upset me. For some obscure reason, you're trying to goad me into doing something that I might regret. I won't stand for it anymore. You're making me utterly miserable.
Ruth, dear.
Don't come near me.
Let her have a good cry. She'll calm down later on.
Oh, you're utterly heartless.
Heartless?
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Elvira.
Go on talking to her then. Talk to her until you're blue in the face, but don't talk to me.
Help me, Elvira.
How?
Make her see or something.
I'm afraid I couldn't manage that. It's technically the most difficult business. Frightfully complicated, you know. It takes years of study.
You are here, aren't you? You're not an illusion?
I may be an illusion, but I'm most definitely here.
Oh, how did you get here?
I told you last night, I don't know.
Well, you must make me promise that you will not come and talk to me again unless I'm alone.
How unkind you are, making me feel so unwanted. I've never been treated so rudely.
Oh, I don't mean to be rude, Elvira, but...
It's all your own fault for having married a woman who's incapable of seeing beyond the nose in her face. If she had a grain of real sympathy for you, she'd believe what you tell her.
How do you expect anyone to believe this?
You'd be surprised how gullible people are. We often laugh about it on the other side.
Charles,
Oh, yes, dear.
I'm awfully sorry I was cross.
Oh, yes, dear.
I understand everything now. I do, really.
You do?
Of course I do.
Look out, she's up to something.
Will be quiet.
Of course, darling. We'll all be quiet, won't we? We'll be as quiet as little mice.
Now, Ruth, dear.
I want you to come upstairs with me and go to bed.
The way the woman harps on about bed is nothing short of
I'll
erotic.
deal with you later.
Very well, come along,
What are
dear.
you up to?
I'm not up to anything. I just want you to go quietly to bed and wait until Dr. Bradman comes.
No, Ruth, you're wrong. You're dead wrong.
Come along, dear.
She'll have you in a straitjacket before we know where you are.
Help me, Elvira.
I would, with pleasure, but I can't think how.
I can. Ruth, dear,
Yes?
if I promise to go up to bed, will you let me stay down here for 5 minutes longer?
I really think
Bear with me. Strange as it may seem, just bear with me for just 5 minutes longer.
Very well, dear. What is it?
Sit down.
All right. There.
Now, listen carefully.
Have a cigarette, it'll soothe your nerves.
I don't want a cigarette.
Then you shan't have one, darling.
Ruth, I want to explain to you clearly and without emotion that beyond any shadow of a doubt, the ghost or shade or whatever you want to call it of my first wife, Elvira, is in this room now.
Yes, dear.
I know you don't believe me, and that you're trying valiantly to humour me, but I intend to prove it to you.
Why don't you lie down and have a nice rest, and you can prove anything you want to later
She
on.
may not be here later on.
Don't worry, she will.
Oh God.
Hush, dear.
Promise you'll do as I ask.
Well, that depends on what it is.
Ruth,
Yes, dear?
you see that vase of flowers up on the piano?
Yes, I did them myself this morning.
Very untidily, if I may say
You
so.
may not.
Very well, I never will again, I promise.
Elvira will now take that vase of flowers to the mantelpiece and back again. You will, Elvira, won't you, just to please me?
I don't see why I should. You've been thoroughly insufferable to me ever since I materialised.
Please.
All right. Not that I approve of any of these masculine or Devon carryings on.
Now, watch carefully, Ruth.
Very well.
Now go on, Elvira. Take it to the mantelpiece and back again.
Oh my Charles! What in the... Oh my... Oh, how dare you, Charles! You ought to be ashamed of yourself!
What on earth for?
It's a trick! I know perfectly well it's a trick! You've been working up to this, it's all part of some horrible plan!
It isn't, I swear it isn't. For God's sake, Elvira, do something else.
Oh, certainly anything to oblige.
You're trying to drive me out of my mind! You're trying to upset me!
Oh, don't be so silly.
You're cruel and sadistic and I'll never forgive you! Oh! I'm not going to stand up for this anymore!
You must believe it, you must.
Let me go immediately!
That was Elvira, I swear it to you.
Let me go!
But Ruth!
This is madness, Charles! Sheer madness! It's some sort of auto-suggestion, isn't it? Some form of hypnotism. Swear to me it's only that! Swear to me it's only that!
Hypnotism my foot.
True, Ruth.
Is what true?
What Elvira just said.
You know perfectly well I can't hear what Elvira says.
She said that you got Madame Arcati here to try and get her exercised. Is that true?
We discussed the possibility.
There's a snake in the grass for
You
you.
had no right to do any such thing without consulting me.
I have every right. This situation is absolutely impossible, and you know it.
If only you put a bit of effort into trying to get a little more friendly with Elvira, we really might all have quite a jolly time.
I have no wish to have a jolly time with Elvira.
She's certainly very bad-tempered, isn't she? I can't think why you married her.
She's naturally a bit upset. We must make allowances.
I was never bad-tempered, though, was I, darling? Even when you were beastly to me.
I was never beastly to you.
Where is Elvira at the moment?
In the chair by the table.
Now look here, Elvira. I shall have to call you Elvira, shan't I? I can't very well go on calling you Mrs. Condamine all the time. It would sound too silly.
I can't see why.
Did she say anything?
Yes, she said she'd like nothing better.
You are sweet, Charles, darling. I worship you.
I wish to be absolutely honest with you, Elvira.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
I admit I did ask Madame Arcati here with a view to getting you exercised, but I think if you were in my position, you'd have done exactly the same thing, wouldn't you?
I shouldn't have done it so obviously.
What did she say?
Nothing, she just nodded and smiled.
Thank you, Elvira. That's generous of you. I really would so much rather there were no misunderstandings between us.
Oh, that's very, very... Yes, I agree entirely, Ruth.
I want, before we go any further, to ask you a frank question. Why did you really come here? I can't see that you could have hoped to have achieved anything by it beyond the immediate joke of making Charles into some sort of astral bigamist.
I came because the proud Charles's love tugged and tugged and tugged at me. Didn't it, my sweet?
What did she say?
She said that she came back because she wanted to see me again.
Well, she's done that now, hasn't she?
We can't be inhospitable, Ruth.
I have no wish to be inhospitable. But I should like to just have an idea of how long you intend to stay, Elvira.
I don't know. I really don't know. Isn't it awful?
She says she doesn't know.
Surely that's a little inconsiderate.
Didn't the old spiritualist have some constructive ideas about getting rid of me?
What did Madame Arcati say?
She said she couldn't do a thing.
Hooray!
Don't be upset, Ruth. We shall adjust ourselves, you know. You must admit it's a unique experience. I don't see why we can't get a great deal of fun out of it.
Fun? Charles, how can you? You must be out of your mind.
Not at all. I thought I was at first, but I must admit I'm beginning to enjoy myself.
Oh, Charles. Charles.
Let her go. She'll calm down later on.
Don't be so callous, Elvira. Try to see her point a little.
I suppose she said something insulting.
No, dear, she didn't say any such thing.
Now look here, Elvira.
She's over by the window now.
No, why the hell can't she stay in the same place?
Temper again. My poor Charles, what a terrible life you must lead.
Oh, do shut up, darling. You're only going to make everything so much worse.
Who was that darling addressed to? Her or me?
Both of you.
Oh, this is intolerable!
Oh, for God's sake, don't get yourself into another state.
I've been doing my level best to control myself ever since yesterday morning, and I'm not going to do it anymore. The strain is too much. She has the advantage of being able to say whatever she pleases without me being able to hear her. She can hear me all right, can't she? Without any modified interpreting.
Modified interpreting? I don't know what you mean.
Oh, yes, you do. You haven't told me once what she really said. You wouldn't dare. Judging from her photograph, she's the type who would use the most unpleasant language.
Ruth, you're not to talk like that.
I've been making polite conversation all through dinner last night and breakfast and lunch today, and it's been a nightmare, and I'm not going to do it anymore. She has the advantage. I don't like Elvira any more than she likes me. And what's more, I'm certain that I never could have, dead or alive. If since her untimely arrival here the other evening, she had shown the slightest sign of good manners, the slightest sign of breeding, I might have felt differently towards her. But all she has done is try to make mischief between us and have private jokes with you against me. I'm now going up to my room and I shall have my dinner on a tray. You and she can have the house to yourselves and you can joke and gossip with each other to your heart's content. First thing in the morning, I'm going up to London to interview the Psychical Research Society, and if they fail me, I shall go straight to the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Ruth!
Oh, don't worry, she'll calm down later on.
It's unlike her to behave like this. She's generally so equable.
No, she isn't. Not really. Her mouth gives her away. It's a rather hard mouth, Charles.
Well, that's got nothing to do with it. I resent you discussing Ruth as though she were a horse. I'm going up to talk to Blith.
Cowardy custard.
Don't be idiotic. I can't just let her go like that.
I don't see why. If she's set on being disagreeable, I should let her get on with it.
The whole business has been very difficult for her. We must be fair.
Well, she should learn to be more adaptable.
She probably will in time. It's been a shock.
Has it been a shock for you too, darling?
Of course it has. What did you expect?
A nice shock.
What do you want, Elvira?
Want? I don't know what you mean.
I remember that whenever you were overpoweringly demure, it usually meant that you wanted something.
I think it's horrid of you to be so suspicious. All I want is to be with you.
Well, you are.
I mean alone, darling. If you go and smile and pamper Ruth, she'll come down again, and our lovely quiet evening together will be spoilt.
You're incorrigibly selfish, Elvira.
It's only natural that I should want to spend a little alone time with you to talk over old times. I'll let you go up just this once if you really think it's your duty.
Of course it is.
And I don't mind.
You're disgraceful, Elvira.
Oh, you come back down again very soon.
I shall probably dress for dinner while I'm up there. You can read the Tatler or something.
Darling, you don't have to dress for me.
I always dress for dinner.
What are you going to have? I should like to watch you eat something rather delicious.
Be a good girl now. You can play the gramophone if you like.
Oh, thank you, Charles. Does it show any sign of clearing?
No, it's still pouring.
I do sympathise with you, really I do. It's been really quite a chapter of accidents, hasn't it?
Certainly has.
That happens sometimes, you know. Everything seems to go wrong at once, exactly as though there were some evil forces at work. I remember once, when George and I went for a fortnight's holiday, not long after we were married. We were dogged by bad luck from beginning to end. The weather was vile, George sprained his ankle, I caught a cold and had to stay in bed for 2 days, and to crown everything, the lamp fell over in his sitting room, setting fire to the treatise George had written on hyperplasia of the abdominal glands.
How dreadful.
He had to write it all over again, every single word.
You're sure you wouldn't like a cocktail or some sherry or anything?
No, thank you, really not. George will be down in a minute, and we've got to go like lightning. We were supposed to be at the Wilmots at 7, and it's nearly that now.
I think I'll have a little brandy. I feel I need it.
Do not worry about your husband's arm, Mrs. Contigy. I'm sure it's only a sprain.
It's not his arm I'm worried about.
And I'm sure Edith will be up and about again in a few days' time.
My cook gave notice this morning.
Well, really. Servants are awful, aren't they? Not a shred of gratitude. The first sign of trouble, they run out on you like rats leaving a sinking ship.
I can't feel that your sympathy was entirely fortunate, Mrs. Brown.
Oh, I didn't mean like that. Really, I didn't.
Nothing to worry about, Mrs. Condamine. It's only a slight sprain.
I'm so relieved.
I made a good deal of fuss when I examined it. Men are much worse patients than women, you know. Particularly highly strung men like your husband.
Is he highly strung, do you think?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I wanted to talk to you about that. I believe that he's been overworking lately.
Overworking?
He's in rather a nervous condition. Nothing serious, you understand?
What makes you think so?
I know the symptoms. Of course, the shock of his fall might have something to do with it, but I certainly should advise a complete rest for a couple of weeks.
You mean he ought to go away?
I do. In cases like that, a change of atmosphere can work wonders.
What symptoms did you notice?
Oh, nothing to be unduly alarmed about. A certain air of strain, an inability to focus his eyes on the person he was talking to, a few rather marked irrelevancies in his conversation.
I see. Can you remember any specific example?
He suddenly shouted, "What are you doing in the bathroom there?" And then a little later, while I was writing him a prescription, He suddenly said, "For God's sake, behave yourself."
How extraordinary.
He often goes on like that, particularly when he's immersed in writing a book.
Oh, I'm not in the least perturbed about it, really. But I do think a rest and a change would be a good idea.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Would you like some brandy?
No, thank you, really, we must be off.
Oh, how is poor Edith?
She's still recovering from the concussion. She'll be all right in a few weeks.
It is funny, isn't it, that both your housemaid and your husband should fall down on the same day, isn't it?
Yes, if that sort of thing amuses you.
Of course, I didn't mean it like that, Mrs. Condley.
Come along, my dear. You're talking too much as usual.
You are horrid, George. Goodbye, Mrs. Condley.
Goodbye.
I'll pop in and have a look at both patients sometime tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Well, how does it feel?
All right.
It's only a slight sprain, you know.
Was this damn sling really necessary?
It is a wise precaution. It will prevent you from using your left hand except when it's really necessary.
I'd intended to drive into Folkestone this evening.
It would be much better if you didn't.
It's extremely inconvenient.
You can easily wait and go tomorrow, Charles.
I can't stand another one of those dreary evenings at home, Charles. It'll drive me dotty. I haven't seen a movie for 7 years.
Let me be the first to congratulate you.
What's that, old man?
Charles, dear, try to be sensible, I implore you.
Sorry, I forgot.
You can drive the car if you promise to go very slowly and carefully. Your gear change is on the right, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, use your left hand as little as possible.
All right.
You'd much better stay at home.
Couldn't you drive him in?
I'm afraid not. I've lots to do in the house and there's Edith to be attended to.
Well, I'll leave you to fight it out among yourselves. But remember, if you do insist on going, carefully does it. The roads are very slippery anyway. Come along, Violet.
Goodbye again. Goodbye, Mr. Condley.
Goodbye.
You really are infuriating, Elvira. Surely you could easily wait and go to the movies another night. Oh, and stop behaving like a schoolgirl. You're old enough to know better.
What?
I was talking to Elvira.
She isn't here.
She was a moment ago. She threw a rose at me.
She's been very high-spirited all day. I know this mood of old. Usually meant she was up to something.
You're sure she isn't here?
Quite sure.
I want to talk to you.
Oh, God.
I must. It's important.
You've behaved very well over the past few days, Ruth. You're not going to start making scenes again, are you?
I resent that air of patronage, Charles. I have behaved well, as you call it, because there was nothing else to do. But I think it only fair to warn you that I offer no guarantees for the future. My patience is stretched to its uttermost.
As far as I can see, the situation is just as difficult for Elvira as it is for you, if not more so. The poor little thing has come back trustingly after all those years on the other side, and what is she faced with? Well, nothing but brawling and hostility.
What did she expect?
An ectoplasmic manifestation has the right to expect a little of the milk of human kindness.
Milk of human fiddlesticks.
But that makes no sense, dear.
Elvira is about as trusting as a pup adder.
You're granite, Ruth. Sheer, unyielding granite.
And a great deal more dangerous into the bargain.
Dangerous? I've never heard anything so ridiculous. How can a poor, wistful little spirit like Elvira be dangerous?
Quite easily. And she is. She's beginning to show her hand.
How do you mean? In what way?
This is a fight, Charles. A bloody battle. A duel to the death between Elvira and me. Don't you see?
No, I can't. You're imagining things. Jealousy causes people to have the most curious delusions.
I am making every effort not to lose my temper with you, Charles, but I must say you are making it increasingly difficult for me.
All this talk of battles and duels.
She came here with one purpose, and one purpose only. And if you can't see it, you're a bigger fool than I thought you.
What purpose could she have beyond a natural desire to want to see me again? After all, you must remember that she was extremely attached to me, poor child.
Her purpose is perfectly obvious. It's to get you with her forever.
Well, that's absurd. How could she?
By killing you off, of course.
Killing me off? You're mad.
Why do you suppose Edith fell down the stairs and nearly cracked her skull?
Yeah, what's Edith got to do with it?
Because the whole of the top stair was covered with axle grease. Cook discovered it afterwards.
You're making this up, Ruth?
I'm not. I swear I'm not. Why do you suppose when you were lopping that dead branch off the pear tree that the ladder broke? Because it had been practically sawn through on both sides.
But why would she want to kill me? Well, I understand why she'd want to kill you, but why me?
If you were dead, it would be her final triumph over me. She'd have you with her forever on her damned astral plane, and I'd be left high and dry. She's probably planning a sort of spiritual remarriage. I wouldn't put anything past her.
Oh, Ruth!
For heaven's sake, stop looking like a wounded spaniel and concentrate. This is serious.
What are we to do?
You're not to let her know that we suspect a thing. Behave perfectly ordinarily, as though nothing had happened. I'm going to Madame Arcati immediately. I don't care how cross she is, she's got to help us. Even if she can't get rid of Elvira, she must know some technical method to rendering her harmless. If trance is necessary, she shall go into a trance if I have to beat her into it. I'll be back in half an hour. Tell Elvira I've gone to see the vicar.
This is appalling.
Never mind about that. Remember now, don't give yourself away by so much as a flick of an eyelid.
Look out.
What?
I merely said it's a nice lookout, dear.
What's a nice lookout?
The weather, Elvira, the glass is going down and down and down. It looks positively macabre.
I find it difficult to believe that you and Ruth at this particular moment can think of nothing more interesting to talk about than the weather.
I can't stand this anymore, I really can't.
No, Ruth, dear.
Has she broken out again?
What did she say?
She asked if you'd broken out again.
How dare you speak like that,
Ruth,
Elvira?
dear, listen.
Charles and I were not talking about the weather, Elvira, as you so very shrewdly suspected. I should loathe you to think we had any secrets from you. And so I will explain exactly what we were talking about. I was trying to persuade him not to drive you into Folkestone this evening. It'll be bad for his arm, and you can perfectly easily wait and go tomorrow. However, as he seems determined to place your wishes before mine in everything, I have nothing further to say. I'm sure I hope you both enjoy yourselves.
Oh, Charles, have you been beastly to her?
No. Ruth doesn't like being thwarted any more than you do.
She's a woman of sterling character. It's a pity she's so ungiving.
As I think I've talked to you before about, I would rather not discuss Ruth with you. It makes me uncomfortable.
I won't mention her again. Are you ready?
What for?
To go to Folkestone, of course.
I want a glass of sherry first.
I don't believe you want to take me at all.
Of course I want to take you. I just think it would be more sensible to go tomorrow. It's a filthy night.
How familiar this is.
In what way familiar?
All through our married life, I only had to suggest something for you to immediately start hedging me off.
I'm not hedging you off. I merely said...
All right. We'll spend another cosy, intimate evening at home with Ruth, stowing away at that hideous table centre and snapping at us like a terrier.
Ruth is perfectly aware that the table centre is hideous. It happens to be a birthday present for her mother.
There's no use trying to defend Ruth's taste to me. It's thoroughly artsy-craftsy, and you know it.
It's not artsy-craftsy.
She's ruined this room. Look at those curtains and that awful shawl over by the piano.
Well, Lady McKinley sent it to us from Burma.
Obviously, because it'd been sent to her from Birmingham.
If you don't start behaving yourself, I shan't take you to Folkestone ever.
Please, Charles, don't be overly grand with me. Please, let's go now.
Not until I've had my sherry.
You are tiresome, darling. I've been waiting about for hours.
And a few more minutes won't make any difference then, will it?
Very well.
Besides, the car won't be back for half an hour at least.
What do you mean?
Ruth's taken it. She's gone to see the vicar.
What?
What on earth's the matter?
You say Ruth's taken the car?
Yes, to go and see the vicar, but she won't be long.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Elvira?
You must stop her. You must stop her at once.
Why? What for?
You must go out and stop her immediately.
Oh, it's too late now. I heard her go a couple of minutes ago.
Oh.
What are you going on like this for? What have you done?
Done? I haven't done anything.
Elvira, you're lying.
I'm not lying. What's that a lie?
What are you getting in such a state for?
I'm not in a state. I don't know what you mean.
You've done something dreadful.
I haven't. I swear I haven't.
My God, the car!
No, Charles, no.
Ruth was right. You were trying to kill me. You've done something to the car.
Oh.
What did you do? Answer me. Hello? Hello? Oh, yes, speaking. I see. The bridge at the bottom of the hill. No. Thank you. I'll come at once.
Well, of all the filthy, low-down tricks. Ow! Stop it, Ruth. Leave. Go.
I do hope you will not consider this an intrusion, Mr. Condamine.
Of course not. Please sit down, won't you?
Thank you.
Would you like a coffee or a liqueur or something?
No, thank you. I had to come, Mr. Condamine.
Yes?
I felt the tremendous urge like a rushing wind, and so I hopped on my bike, and here I am.
That was very kind of you.
No, not kind at all. It is my duty. I know it strongly.
A duty?
I allowed myself to get into a huff the other day with your late wife, and I've regretted it ever since.
Oh, please don't. There's no necessity for that.
Please, let me go on. Mine is the shame, mine is the blame, and I shall never forgive myself. Had I not been so impetuous, had I listened to the cool voice of reason, so much might have been averted.
You told my wife distinctly that you were unable to help her. Over and above the original unfortunate mistake, I see no reason for you to reproach yourself.
threw up the sponge. In a moment of crisis, I threw up the sponge instead of throwing down the gauntlet.
Whatever you threw, Madame Arcati, I very much fear nothing could have been done. It seems as circumstances have been a bit too strong for us all.
I cannot bring myself to admit to defeat so easily, Mr. Condamine. It's all gall and wormwood to me. If only I'd concentrated a little more, made an effort.
Never mind.
But I do mind. I cannot help it. I mind with every fibre of my being. I have been thinking very carefully. I have read a good deal too over the last few dreadful days. I gather we are alone.
My first wife is not with us. She is lying down. The funeral exhausted her. I imagine that my second wife is with her, but then again I have no way of knowing for certain.
You have remarked no change in the texture of your first wife since the accident.
No, she's much as usual. A little under the weather perhaps, a trifle low-spirited, but that's all.
Well, that washes that out.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Oh, just a little theory. In the 19th century, it was a pretty widespread belief that a ghost who had participated in the death of a human being disintegrated automatically.
Oh, how do you know that Elvira was in any way responsible for its death?
Elvira? It's a pretty name, isn't it? Has a definite lilt to it. Elvira.
You haven't answered my question. How did you know?
It came to me last night, Mr. Condamine. It came to me in a blinding flash. I had just finished my Ovaltine and went to turn out the light when I started up in bed and with a loud cry, "Great Scott!" I said, "I've got it!" After that, I started to put 2 and 2 together. At 3 in the morning, with my brain fairly seething, I went to work on my crystals. But it wasn't very satisfactory. Cloudy, you know.
I'd be very much obliged if you would keep any theories you have regarding my wife's death to yourself, Madame Arcati.
But my one desire is to help you. I fear I've been dreadfully remiss over the whole affair. Not only remiss, but untidy.
I am afraid there's nothing to be done.
But there is. There is. I have a formula. Oh. Here it is. I copied it out of Edmondson's Witchcraft and its byways.
What the hell are you talking about?
Pluck up your heart, Mr. Condamine. All is not lost.
Now look here, Madame Arcati.
You are anxious to dematerialise your first wife, I suppose.
Well, of course I am. I'm perfectly furious with her. But
what?
well, she's been very upset these last few days. You see, what with me being angry with her, which she always hated even when she was alive, Ruth, my second wife, has hardly left her side for a moment. You must see that she's been having a pretty bad time, what with one thing and another.
Your delicacy of feeling does you credit, but I must say, if you'll forgive my bluntness, that you are a damned fool, Mr. Condamine.
You're at liberty to think whatever you please.
Now, don't get on your high horse. There's no sense in that, is there? I have a formula here that will get rid of her without hurting her feelings in the least. It requires nothing more than complete concentration from you and a minor trance from me. I may even be able to manage it without lying down.
Honestly, I would rather.
Charles!
What on earth's the matter?
Oh, what's she doing here?
Well, she came to offer me her condolences.
It should have been congratulations.
You are not to talk like that, Elvira. It's in the worst possible taste. Madame Arcati, allow me to introduce my first wife, Elvira.
How do you do?
What does she want, Charles? Send her away.
In what part of the room is she at the moment?
She's moving about rather rapidly, but I'll tell you when and where she settles.
She's the one who got me here in the first place, isn't she?
Yes.
Well, tell her to get me back again as soon as possible. I can't stand being in this house another minute.
Really, Elvira, I'm surprised.
I don't care how surprised you are. I want to go home.
Oh, don't be childish, Elvira.
I'm not being childish, I mean it.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I smell ectoplasm most strongly.
What a disgusting thing to say.
Where is she now?
Well, here, close to me.
Are you happy, dear?
Please get rid of her, Charles.
Was the journey difficult? Are you weary?
She's dotty.
Just a moment, Madame Arcati.
Oh, this is wonderful, wonderful!
Please get rid of her.
Madame Arcati.
Just a moment. I almost have contact. I can sense vibrations! Oh!
Oh, no, Elvira, don't be a small sport. Give her a bit of encouragement.
Only if you'll promise to get her into the other room.
All right.
Yes, again. This is first rate. It really is first rate. Absolutely stunning.
I'm so glad you're pleased.
Please get rid of her. Ruth will be in a minute.
Madam Alcati, would you find it most frightfully awful if I asked you to wait in the dining room for a couple of moments? My first wife wishes to talk to me alone.
Oh, must I? It's so lovely actually being in the room with her.
Only for a couple of minutes. I promise she'll be here when you get back.
Very well, if you insist. Hand me my bag, will you? It's on the settee. Oh, you darling, you little darling. Oh.
How good is she really?
I don't know.
Do you really think she could get me back again?
Oh, but my dear child.
Don't call me your dear child. It's smug and supercilious.
Oh, there's no need to be so rude.
The whole thing's been a failure. A miserable, dreary failure. And all what high hopes I had to start out with.
You can't expect much sympathy from me. I am perfectly aware that your highest hope was to murder me.
Oh, don't put it like that. It sounds so beastly.
It is beastly. It's one of the most beastly things I've ever heard.
There was a time when you'd have welcomed the chance of being with me forever and ever.
Your behaviour has shocked me immeasurably, Elvira. I had no idea you were so unscrupulous.
Oh, Charles!
Oh, stop crying.
They don't mean anything really. They're only ghost tears, but they're very painful.
You've brought this on yourself, you know.
That's right. Rub it in. Anyhow, it was only because I loved you. The silliest thing I ever did in my life was to love you. You were always unworthy of me.
That remark was perilously near impertinence, Elvira.
I sat there on the other side, just longing for you, day after day. I really did. All through your affair with that brassy-looking woman in the south of France, I went on loving you and thinking truly of you. And then you married Ruth, and even then I forgave you, because deep down I tried to understand that you truly loved me best. That's why I put myself down for a return visit and had to fill in all those forms and wait about in drafty passages for hours. If only you'd died before you met Ruth, everything might be all right. She's absolutely ruined you. I hadn't been in the house a day before I realised that. And your books aren't a quarter as good as they used to be.
But that's entirely untrue. Ruth helped me and encouraged me with my work, which is a damn sight more than you ever did.
That's probably what's wrong with it.
All you ever cared of was going off to parties and enjoying yourself.
Why shouldn't I have fun? I died young, didn't I?
You needn't have died at all if you hadn't been idiotic enough to go off on the river with Guy Henderson and get soaked to the skin.
So we're back to Guy Henderson again, are we?
You behaved abominably over Guy Henderson, and there's no use pretending that you didn't.
Guy adored me. And anyhow, he was very attractive.
You told me he didn't attract you in the least.
You should have gone through the roof, but I told you that he did.
Did you have an affair with Guy Henderson?
I'd rather not discuss it if you don't mind.
Answer me, did you or didn't you?
Of course I didn't.
But you let him kiss you though, didn't you?
How can I stop him? He was bigger than I was.
And you swore to me!
You should always making scenes over nothing at all.
Nothing at all!
I don't believe you loved me big, really. It was only your beastly vanity.
You really believe it was only vanity that upset me when you went off on a punt with Guy Henderson?
It was not a punt. It was a little launch.
I don't care if it was a three-masted schooner, you had no right to go!
You seem to forget why I went. You seem to forget that you've been making sheep's eyes at that overblown harridan with the false pearls.
A woman in Cynthia Cheviot's position would hardly wear false pearls.
That's practically all she was wearing.
I'm pained to observe that 7 years in your echoing vaults of eternity have in no way impaired your native vulgarity.
That was the remark of a pompous ass.
There is nothing to be gained from continuing this discussion.
You always used to say that when you were thoroughly worsted.
On looking back at our married years, Elvira, I see now with horrid clarity that they were nothing more than a mockery.
You invite mockery, Charles. It's something to do with your personality, I think, a certain seedy grandeur.
Once and for all, Elvira.
You never suspected it, but I laughed at you steadily, from the altar to the grave. All your petty jealousies and fussings and feuds.
You were feckless and irresponsible and morally unstable. I realised that before we left Budley Salterton.
Nobody but a monumental bore would have thought of having a honeymoon at Budley Salterton.
What's the matter with Budley Salterton?
I was me, young bride, Charles. I wanted glamour and music and romance. All I got was potted palms, 7 hours a day on a damp golf course, and a three-piece orchestra playing Merry England.
It's a pity you didn't tell me so at the time.
I did, but you wouldn't listen. That's why I went out to the moors that day with Captain Bracegirdle. I was desperate.
You swore to me that you went to go and see your aunt in Exmouth.
It was the moors.
With Captain Bracegirdle?
With Captain Bracegirdle.
I should have known it! What a fool I was! What a blind fool! Did he make love to you?
Of course.
Oh, well, Vera.
Only very discreetly. He was in the cavalry, you know.
Well, all I can say is that I'm well rid of you.
Unfortunately, you're not.
Oh, yes, I am. You're dead. Ruth's dead. I shall sell this house, lock, stock and barrel, and go away somewhere.
I shall follow you.
I shall go a long way away. I shall go to South America. You'll hate it. You were always such a bad traveller.
That can't be helped. I shall have to follow you because you called me back.
I did not call you back.
Well, somebody didn't. It's hardly likely to have been Ruth.
Nothing in this world was further from my mind.
Oh, you were talking about me before dinner that evening?
I might have easily been talking about Joan of Arc, but that wouldn't necessarily mean I wanted her to come and live with me.
As a matter of fact, she's rather fun.
Stick to the point.
When I think of what might have happened had I succeeded in getting you to the other side, it makes me shudder. It honestly does. It'd be nothing but bickering forever and ever and ever. I swear I'll be better off with Ruth. At least she won't get in my way and she'll know her own sex.
So I get in your way, do I?
Only because I was idiotic enough to believe that you might have loved me. I sort of felt sorry for you.
I'm sick of all these insults. Please go away.
I should like nothing better. I always believed in cutting my losses, that's why I died.
Of all the brazen sophistry.
Call the old girl in again, set her to work. I can't tolerate this any longer. I want to go home.
For heaven's sake, don't snivel.
Call her in. She's got to get me out of this.
I quite agree. And the sooner, the better. Madam Arcati, will you please come in now?
Is the darling still here?
Yes.
Where? Tell me where.
Over by the piano, blowing her nose.
Oh, my dear, oh, my
You'll have to
dear.
stop falling on me, Charles, or I shall break something.
Madam Arcati, my wife and I have discussed the whole situation and she wishes to go home immediately.
Oh,
Wherever she came from.
you don't think she'd like to stay here a few days longer until I get things a little more organised?
No, I want to go now.
I could come and be here with her. I could bring my crystal.
God forbid.
We are both agreed she should go home as soon as possible. Please, strain every nerve, Madam Arcati. Make every effort. You said something about a formula? What is it?
Very well, if you insist.
I most emphatically do insist.
Oh, Charles.
Shut up!
It may not work, you know. I can't guarantee anything. I'll try my best.
What is the formula?
It's just a little verse. It fell to disuse in the 17th century. I shall need some pepper and some salt.
Oh, there's some pepper and salt in the dining room. I'll get it.
We ought, of course, have a shepherd's wort and a frog or two, but I think I can manage without. Oh, now. You won't be frightened, will you, dear? It's absolutely painless. Now.
Will this be enough?
Oh yes, I need a little. Just on the table, please. Now then, let me see. Ooh. Sprinkle it, will you? Just a little soup on, right there in the middle.
This is going to be a flop, I can tell you that here and now.
Now, a few roses out of that vase. There's a good chap.
Here you are.
Now, for the gramophone. In the old days, of course, they'd use a zither or reed pipes. We'd better have the record we had on before, I should think.
I'll get it.
Whatever you think is best, Madam Arcati.
Oh, if Mr. Emsworth of the Psychical Research could see this, he'd have a fit. He would, really. Now, don't start it yet, dear. That's it. If you'd like to sit down, Mr. Condamine. Rest your hands on the table, but don't put your fingers in the pepper. I shall turn out the lights myself. Oh, shucks, I'd nearly forgotten. Now, let me see. One triangle, one half circle, and one little dot there.
This is a waste of time. She's a complete fake.
Anything's worth trying.
I'm as eager for it to succeed as you are. Don't make any mistake about that. But I'll lay you 10 to 1 it's a dead failure.
If your wife would be kind enough to lie on the sofa.
Go on, Elvira.
This is sheer nonsense. Don't blame me if I get the giggles.
Concentrate. Think of nothing.
That's right. Quite right. Hands at the side, legs extended. Breathe steadily. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Is she comfortable?
Are you comfortable, Elvira?
No.
She's quite comfortable.
I shall join you in a moment, Mr. Condamine. I may have to go into a trance, but if I do, pay no attention. Now, for the music, and away we go. Lights.
Oh dear, it's the pepper.
Damn!
Hold on to yourself, concentrate. Ghostly spectre, ghoul or fiend, nevermore be thou convened. Shepherd's wort and holy rite, banish thee into the night.
What a disagreeable little verse.
Be quiet, Elvira.
Shh. Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Is there anyone there? Oh, is that you, Daphne? I'm terribly sorry to bother you, dear, but Mrs. Condamine wants to return. Oh, did you hear what I said, Daphne? Can you help us? Whole time Mr. Condamine is trying to break away.
What's wrong, Madam Arcati? Are you hurt? Oh, what on hurt Madame Arcati?
Leave her be, she's having a whale of a time. What happened?
Nothing at all.
Oh yes it did, I knew something happened.
You fell over, that's all that happened.
Is she still here?
Of course she is.
Oh, something must have gone wrong. Make her do it properly, I'm sick of being messed about like this. I know something happened all right. I sensed it in my trance, I felt it, it shivered through me.
Once and for all, Charles, what the hell does this mean? Well, we've done all we can. I must say I couldn't be more exhausted.
It'll be daylight soon.
That clock's always irritated me. It strikes far too slowly.
It was a wedding present from Uncle Walter.
Who's Uncle Walter?
Elvira's.
Well, all I can say is he might have chosen something a little more decorative.
If that really were all you could say, Ruth, I'm sure it'd be a great comfort to us all.
You can be as rude as you like, Elvira. I don't mind a bit. As a matter of fact, I should be extremely surprised if you weren't.
Why?
The reply to that is really too obvious.
I wish you two would stop bickering for 1 minute.
It's quite definitely one of the most frustrating nights I've ever spent.
The reply to that is pretty obvious too.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
Skip it.
Now look here, Elvira. If you and I have got to stay together indefinitely in this house, it looks unpleasantly likely. We shall have to come to some sort of an arrangement.
What sort of an arrangement?
You are not going to stay indefinitely in this house.
With you, then. We shall have to be with you.
Well, I don't see why. Why can't you take a cottage somewhere?
You called us back.
I have already explained till I'm black in the face I didn't do anything of the sort.
Madame Arcati said you did.
Madame Arcati's a mumbling old fool.
I could have told you that in the first place.
I think you're behaving very shabbily, Charles.
I really don't see what I've done.
We all agreed that as Elvira and I are dead, it would be both right and proper for us to dematerialize again as soon as possible. That I admit. We've allowed ourselves to be subjected to the most humiliating hocus-pocus for hours and hours without complaining.
Without complaining.
We've stood up, we've lain down, we've concentrated, we've sat interminably while that tiresome old lady recited extremely unflattering verses at us. We've endured 5 seances. We've watched her fling herself in and out of trances until we're dizzy, and at the end of it, we find ourselves exactly where we were at the beginning.
Well, it isn't my fault.
Be that as it may, the least you can do is to admit failure gracefully and try to make the best of it. The man is a boorish to a degree.
I'm just as exhausted as you are. I've had to do all the damn table tapping, remember?
If she can't get us back, she can't, and that's that. She'll have to think of something else.
She must get you back. Anything else is unthinkable.
And there's gratitude for you.
Gratitude?
Yes, for all the years we've been devoted to you, you ought to be ashamed.
What about all those years that I've devoted to you?
Nonsense. We've waited on you hand and foot, haven't we, Ruth? And you're exceedingly selfish, always were.
In that case, I fail to see why you were so anxious to get back to me in the first place.
You called us back, and you've done nothing but try to get rid of us ever since we came. Hasn't he, Elvira?
He certainly has.
And now, owing to your idiotic inefficiency, we find ourselves in the most mortifying position. We're neither fish, flesh, nor fowl, nor whatever it is.
Good red herring.
It can't be.
Well, why don't you do something? Why don't you do something on your own?
We can't. You know perfectly well we can't.
Isn't there somebody on the other side who could help you?
How do I know? I've only been there a few days. Ask Elvira.
I've already told you it's no good. If we got Cagliostro, Mesmer, Merlin, Gilderetz, and the Black Douglas in a row, they couldn't do a thing. The impetus has got to come from here. But perhaps Charles doesn't want us to go quite enough.
I certainly do.
Well, you must have a very weak will then. I've always suspected it.
It's no use arguing any longer. Wake up, Madame Arcati.
Please, not another séance. Please, not another séance.
Please wake up, Madame Arcati.
Shake her.
Might upset her.
I don't care if it kills her.
Oh. Please wake up, Madame Arcati.
Oh. What time is it?
5:10.
What time did I go off?
Over an hour ago.
Curious. Very curious. Forgive me a moment, I must make a note of that in my diary. Ooh. Are they still here?
Yes.
How disappointing. Now,
Have you any suggestion?
how about we have another séance? Really put our shoulders to the wheel and make it a real rouser.
Oh, for God's sake, not another séance.
I might be able to materialise a trumpet if I tried hard enough.
I don't care if she materialises the whole symphony orchestra. I implore you not to let her have another séance.
Madame Arcati, don't you think that perhaps we've had enough seances? After all, they haven't achieved much, have they?
Rome wasn't built in a day, you know.
Well, I know it wasn't, but
Cheer up. Away with melancholy.
Now, look here, Madam Arcati, before you go off into any further trances, I really think we ought to discuss the situation a little.
Good. An excellent idea. And while you're at it, I'm going to have another one of those delicious sandwiches. I am as hungry as a hunter.
Will you have some more beer?
No, thank you. Better not.
Very well, I think I'll have a small whiskey and soda.
Make it a double and enjoy yourself.
One day I intend to give myself the pleasure of telling Madame Arcati exactly what I think of her.
She's been doing her best.
Are the girls getting despondent?
I'm afraid they are, rather.
We'll win them through yet. Don't be downhearted.
If we're not very careful, she'll materialise the hockey team.
Now, the discussion, Mr. Convey. Fire away.
Well, my wives and I have been talking it over, and they are both absolutely convinced that I, somehow or other, called them back.
Very natural.
I am convinced that I did not.
Love is a strong psychic force, Mr. Convey. A true love can encompass the universe. It can work untold miracles.
I'm sure it can, but I must confess to you frankly that although my affections for both Elvira and Ruth is of the warmest, I cannot truthfully feel they come under the heading that you described.
I should think not indeed.
You may not know your own strength, Mr. Convey.
I did not call them back, either consciously or subconsciously.
But, Mr. Convey,
That's my final word on the subject.
neither of them could have appeared unless someone, a psychic subject, in this house had wished for them.
Well, it wasn't me.
Or perhaps it was Dr. Bradman. I never knew he cared.
Are you sure? Are you really sure?
Absolutely positive.
Great Scott, I believe I've been barking up the wrong tree.
How do you mean?
The Sudbury case! Oh,
I wish you'd explain.
there's no reason why you should want me to. It was well before your day.
What was the Sudbury case? What did you do?
I dematerialised old Lady Sudbury, who had been firmly entrenched in her private chapel for over 17 years.
How? Do you remember how?
Chance, a fluke. I happened on it by the merest coincidence.
What fluke? What did you do?
Wait, all in good time. Now, who was here during our first seance?
Only the Bradmans and Ruth and me and yourself.
Ah, yes, to be sure, the Bradmans. But they weren't here the other night, were they?
No.
Quickly, my crystal.
Here.
Oh, damn the thing, it gives me the pip. It's cloudy again. Ah, yes. There it is again. There it is again. I'm beginning to understand.
I wish I was. What's there again?
Ooh, a bandage. A white bandage. Hold on to the white bandage.
I don't have a white bandage.
Shh.
She's too good, you know. She ought to be in a circus.
Be you in nook or cranny, answer me. Be you behind the panel or above the stair, answer me. Be you beneath the eaves, waking or sleeping, answer me. That ought to do it, why I'm a Dutchman.
Do what?
For God's sake, she looks silly. Nearly makes me sick.
Would you like the gramophone on or the lights out or something?
No, it's near. It's very near.
If it's a ghost, I shall scream.
I hope it's nobody we know. I shall feel so silly.
Did you ring, sir?
Bandage. The white bandage.
No, Edith.
Sorry, sir. I could have sworn I heard the bell. Or somebody calling. I don't know, I was asleep.
Come here, child.
Oh?
Go on, go to Madame Arcati. It's quite all right.
Who do you see in the room, child?
Oh dear.
Answer, please.
You, madam.
Go on.
The master.
Anyone else?
Oh no, madam.
Come, child, don't beat about the bush. Anyone else?
Do concentrate, Elvira, and keep still.
I can't.
Do you see anyone else now?
Sir, I don't understand.
Where are they now?
By the fireplace. Oh!
She can see them. Do you mean to say that she can see them?
Probably not very clearly, but enough.
Oh, let me go. Back to bed. I haven't done nothing nor seen nobody. Just let me go.
Give her a sandwich.
I don't want a sandwich. I want to go back to bed.
Here, Edith.
Oh, so it's a big healthy girl like you saying no to a sandwich. I never heard such a thing. Sit down.
If she's been the cause of all this unpleasantness, I shall give her a week's notice tomorrow.
You may not be here tomorrow.
Look at me, Edith. Cuckoo!
dear. What's the matter with her? She balmy.
Look at my finger, Edith. Have you ever seen such a long, long finger? Look. Now it's on the right. Now it's on the left. Backwards and forwards it goes, very quietly. Backwards and forwards. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock.
The master of the clock.
Be quiet, will ruin everything.
Well, she's awful, right?
Off?
She's a natural, just the same as the Sudbury case. It really is the most amusing coincidence. Now, if you'd like to ask your wives to stand closer to you.
Where?
Over here by you.
Elvira? Ruth?
I resent being ordered about like this.
I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I feel peculiar.
I'm afraid I must insist.
It would serve you right if we flatly refused to do anything at all.
Are you sorry for having been so mischievous, Edith?
Oh, yes, madam.
And you know what you have to do now, don't you, Edith?
Oh, yes, madam.
I believe it's going to work, whatever it is. Oh, Charles.
Shh.
This is goodbye, Charles. Stop her for a moment. There's something I want to say before I go.
It's too late now. You should have thought of that earlier.
Of all the mean and gracious. Charles, listen a moment.
I'll be loving you always. With a love that's true.
Saw Captain Brace again again, Charles, several times. I went to 400 with him twice when we were away in Nottingham, and I must say, I couldn't have enjoyed it more.
With a helping hand.
Splendid!
Britain quite so easily, my dear. You may not be able to see it. We shall be there all right. I consider you to have behaved atrociously of the whole miserable business, and I should like to say here and now.
Splendid, hurrah! I think we've done it. Quite enough singing for the moment, Edith.
They've gone. They've really gone.
I think we've really pulled it off this time.
You ought to wake her up, hadn't you? She might bring them back.
Wake up, child!
Good heavens. Where am I?
It's quite all right, Edith. You can go back to bed now.
Why? It's morning.
Oh, yes, I know, Edith.
But I was in bed. How did I get down here?
I rang, Edith. I rang the bell and you answered. Didn't I, Madam Arcati?
Did I drop off? Do you think it's my concussion again? Oh dear.
It's all right. It's quite all right, Edith. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh sir, whatever for? Oh sir.
What on earth did she mean by that?
Golly! What a night! I'm ready to drop in my tracks.
Would you like to stay here? There's a spare room, you know.
No, thank you. Each to his own nest. I'll pedal home in a jiffy. It's only 7 miles.
I really am deeply grateful to you, Madam Arcati. I don't know what arrangements you usually make, but I trust you'll send your account in due course.
Good heavens, Mr. Condamine, I wouldn't dream of such a thing.
But really, I feel after all those trances...
I enjoy them thoroughly. Always have done since a child.
Oh, well, perhaps you will give me the pleasure of lunching with you one day soon?
When you come back, I'm sure I should be delighted.
Come back.
Take my advice and go away immediately.
But, Madam Arcati, you don't...
This must be a very unhappy house for you. There are memories, both grave and gay, in every corner. It also...
Also what?
There are more things in heaven and earth, Mr. Condamine. Just go. Pack your traps and go away immediately.
But you don't mean to say that they could still be here?
Quien sabe, as the Spanish say.
I wonder. I shall take your advice, Madam Arcati. Thank you again.
Goodbye, Mr. Condamine. It has been fascinating from first to last. Fascinating! Oh, you don't mind if I take one of these sandwiches to munch on my way home? I'm as hungry as a hunter.
By all means.
Oh. No trouble, I can find my way. Cheerio once more, and good hunting!
Ruth? Elvira? Are you there? Ruth! Elvira! I know damn well you're there. I just thought I should tell you that I'm going away for a while, so there's no point in you hanging around any longer. I'm going a long way away. Somewhere where I don't believe you'll be able to follow me. In spite of what Elvira says, I don't think spirits can travel over water. Is that quite clear, my darlings? You said in one of your more acid moments, Ruth, that I'd been hag-ridden all my life. Or how right you were. But now I'm free, dear. Not only free from Mother and Elvira and Mrs. Winthrop Whelen, but free from you too, and I should like to take this farewell opportunity to tell you that I am enjoying it immensely. Aha! I thought so. You're very silly, Elvira, to imagine that I didn't know about you and Captain Bracegirdle. I did. But what you may not have known is that I was extremely attached to Paula Westlake at the time. I was reasonably faithful to you, Ruth, but I doubt it would have lasted much longer. You're becoming increasingly domineering, and there's nothing more off-putting than that, is there? Goodbye for the moment, my darling. I expect we are bound to meet again one day soon, but for the moment I'm going to enjoy myself like I've never enjoyed myself before. You can break up the house as much as you like. I'm leaving it anyhow. Think kindly of me. Send out good thoughts. Nice work, Ruth. Get Elvira to help you. Persevere. Goodbye. Parting is such sweet sorrow.